Today I'm going to start a series of photo edits focusing on Luminar Neo and throwing in a bit of AI from Google and Dream. But what the video will concern will be how to edit one photo, basically using some of the new features in Neo in terms of background removal and coloring, colorization. What I have here is a whole series of black and white photographs. And the one I'm interested in doing today is this one here, which is of my grandpa Wade, who died when I was about 3 or 4. Rather unfortunately, actually. You know, you always talk about somebody being run over by a train. He wasn't a very good driver, and he actually drove into a train. But at any rate, we're still going to try to resurrect him in full color here. Now, you may notice that you may or may not notice, you wouldn't know, but they're not in alphabetical order. They're in supposedly the most aesthetic first, and that's due to this database has XR has a procedure by which it is able to rate pictures in terms of their aesthetic value. The standard was established by getting a large number of photographers to rate photos and tie that all together into a single rating system. I don't always agree with it, but it, you know, at least it gives you some comparison to how good you're doing whenever you're editing your photos. So now let's switch over to Neo, and we can see I've got these all in a well, here it is. I've got these in a directory that I've imported into Luminar Neo, and the guy that I want is that I want to be working with is this one right here. So let's we look at him a little bit, and you can see these. I mean, it's a photo from back in 1947 or 1948. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. And what we'll do is we'll edit him. Okay, so now, well, before we edit him, we're gonna colorize him. So let's go. We're in the catalog panel. We'll go to the right hand panel and scroll all the way down. And you'll, if you're new in there, what you want to do is you want to click on the restoration into this restoration there. Now we got if we just want to keep it black and white, we would just try to hit the scratches and say restore, and that would and that would allow us to do that. But we're going for the color, so we want to restore any damage and fill them with color. So we'll say okay. So we'll hit full and do restore. It took about a minute to process that, and but anyway, here's the result. And the thing you want to notice here is that this was put into the restoration. It makes a special directory to put that. Okay, now we're ready to edit. So let's go edit. Alright, so there we are. Alright, the first thing that we want to do is we want to get rid of all the background. It basically means nothing. So you click on the layer properties, and then what you do is you turn on the masking, and then you scroll all the way down here and remove the background. And that takes a while, so we'll wait till that's done. So that's done now, and we'll tell it to remove it. And that takes a little while, but not very long. So now we've got it, and it did a moderate job, but it stuffed up the crown of the hat. And also there's a little bit left over here that it didn't do very well. So what we'll do is we won't worry about the hat, because that's a little bit of a tedious job to deal with. First things, we'll show the a mask there, and then let's just select a brush and say we at least we want to, well, let's make that a bit smaller. We'll go into here and we'll get rid of that. There's a bit over here that could be, but that job you have to do very carefully. And as it turns out, when you use the AI tools, one of the Google AI tools or CDream, they do a better job. And typically speaking, what I would do is I would do that and then bring it into Neo and finish it off there, which is what we're going to do eventually. All right, so we'll stick with that. All right, now what we want to do here, I think, well, we'll do a couple things first. Let's properly develop it. So we'll go to there. We'll go to the develop tool, and we'll just do an auto adjust on that. That just takes a few seconds. And what it did is it brought the exposure down some for us, increased the contrast, and increased the shadows. Basically, what it did, it was a very pale type of image. You need to basically increase the contrast. And I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit more. I'm going to go in with the curves. I'm going to narrow since there's no information, color information out that far in terms of the highlights, I'll move that there. And then if you know anything about curves, I'm just going to make a slight S, because here are the dark tones and here are the highlights, and that's increased the contrast between the two. Okay, so we'll keep that. We might see if we can enhance it a little bit. Yes, we can enhance it a little bit. All right, that's fine. So next thing we'll do, let's go back to the layer properties, and what we'll do is we'll put a background back behind this. Now, he was an agro-businessman. He was one of the first in the South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley to really get into the business side of farming. And unfortunately, we'd all be millionaires now if he hadn't run into a train. But at any rate, let's add a layer. Now I've got some that I imported there, and I'm going to pick this one right here because he raised sheep and he had cotton and he did a lot of truck garden crops as well. But let's take this one. All right, and we'll move it down here so you can see what it is, and let's change the opacity on that, and we'll stretch it, and we can actually move it around a little bit. Well, we won't do it that way. What we'll do, now if we move it around, it'll still sit on the frame, and you can see what we've got is we've got a farmhouse back here with some sheep, and let's move it up a little bit as well so we cover the whole frame. Okay, so we now have this. Probably one other thing I'd like to do to make it a reasonable photo. I go to do a vignette, and what we'll do is we'll choose the subject and we'll pick it up here, I guess. So I picked Aaron, so I chose his hand as being the center. And then what we'll do is if you go all the way, that gives you, but you don't need that much. You just need something that indicates a little bit. That's it. I've got some white showing up here. I think what I'll do is the simple way there is I'll crop, and I'll change it so it's freeform, and we'll just move it down a little bit. Okay, so we'll apply that, and basically that's done. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll export that, and we'll browse and get to the where I want it, which is in the Barber Demo area. So we'll select that folder, and I'm going to call that Neo. Because that's just pure Neo. Okay, so we'll export that, and we'll have a look at it later, compare it to what else we've got. Alright, so what we'll do now is we'll let's go to LM Arena. Now if you look at if you type that in, that takes you to LM Arena, which basically is a way of trying out lots of different types of AI tools and this is the screen you get when you do that. You can try out lots of AI tools on images, and some of them have restrictions how many times you can do it, like the ones we do today, but we're not going to do that much, so it doesn't matter. But there's two that I use. If we exit drawing, is at any rate, this is there's two that I use. There's Gemini Nano Banana and Seedream 4, and both those they're both very good, but sometimes one does a little better than the other. All right, so let's start with Nano Banana. All right, now let's bring in it's not what we want. We want, although it's quite wonderful what's there, what we want is Robert Dono, and you can see we've got the guy there, but this is the guy we want to work with. Alright, now one nice thing about this is I'm just going to tell it what I want. And what I want is I want to say I want him to repair. I would like it to colorize. I mean, you can do these in individual steps, but it's interesting. If you know kind of what you want, you can specify all that you want when you do it. Okay, so you can colorize. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to replace the background. Now what Grandpa Wade did, he raised crops and he raised livestock, and his main cash crop was cotton. So I want to replace the background with a cotton field. And that's about all. I think that'll do. So what we'll do is we'll hit return there and see what it does. This guy is usually pretty fast, and because it usually is 15 to 30 seconds or whatever, how long it takes to do this. And anyway, let's just see what it does. Okay, so I'll click on this so we get it a little bit bigger so you can have a look. But as you can see, it's done a reasonable job. It's fixed up the problem with the hat. It's put a nice cotton field and it's put a nice there. So that's worth keeping. So let's just save that image. And again, we don't want it there. We want it demo. And what I want to call that, we'll call that, I'll rename it later, but we'll call that a banana. So we'll save that there. Alright, that's good. Alright, so let's go down here and let's go down to let's go back to Luminar, go back to catalog, and then what we're going to do is let's go back to the demo repair. This is our guy here. We can double our fun here. Okay, this one is pure Neo. This is pure AI in terms of editing picture. Let's try to get the best of both worlds. So we'll edit that guy there. Alright, so we'll go through some of the same properties here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll develop auto adjust, and we can see it's increased the contrast again because it started off basically with a low contrast thing. And I'm going to just do a bit more. Well, let's get things in there. Okay, what I'm doing there is making sure that the bandwidth is completely consistent with all the colors. In other words, there are no highlights past this point, so why even allocate space for them? Okay, so we'll take this guy here and make the S curve, and it doesn't need much, but we'll do, because we already took out some of it in the develop, and we already increased the contrast some here. Okay, so that's fine. So we'll now we can enhance. We can okay, we could do that, for example, and that makes everything. I mean, I would enhance this and do the sky separately. You know, okay, so that's pretty good. And why not? We did all one. We may as well do the vignette on this as well. So we'll choose the subject, and we'll choose the hand again, where he's smoking his cigar. And if we go all the way, it'll look like that. And that's not terrible, but let's not make it quite so extreme. So we'll do that. All right. All right. So now we'll export that, and we'll call that Banana Neo. So we'll export that. Now we've got that. Now let's switch back to XR. Now what we have to do before we get those new edits in, we have to synchronize this. So we'll do that. So we'll synchronize, and that takes a minute or so. So I'll pause the thing, and we'll worry about when it gets done. Okay, I've done the synchronization to get the photos in there. So now let's have a look. Alright, here you got, if you look at the names here, you can see that's our original, and that was 34. Okay? Now, this guy is the one where we just did Neo. We looked at him. So he's 35. But then when we go combine the what's produced by the Google Banana with the Neo, it goes all the way up to 55. Any way you look at it, it was probably a worthwhile exercise.